What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a new vlog. If you're new here, my name is Spencer Berke. We're over here at Precision Dynamics today, and by the title of this video, you know what's happening today. We're doing something that these cars are notorious for that you have to fix. So we're gonna go into full detail and a full installation video on how to do a crank hub on an F80 M3. Finally, the day has come. Are you a vlogger now?
I am.
Officially?
Officially.
Is this vlog number 2?
3.
Dang.
Well, this is 4. Today's 4.
Oh. I just spent the weekend over at Button Willow at a track day, pushing my car super hard. I've done 3 track days on this car without doing the crank hub, and people always say to do it, and I'm always looking on Facebook and Instagram, everyone talking about like, you don't have to, you have to. We're gonna explain in this video the reason why you should.
Well, Kennedy has one more.
So these are it. This was so unexpected and last minute. Because like I said in your video, I came in here to do the hood.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no, we're doing crank hub today.
Yeah.
Let's give people that are watching this video an explanation of what this is, because this is a special project.
Yeah, so obviously you and I have been talking about this for quite some time now. Before you even decided to get the F80, we already started developing this. And then once you were thinking about the F80, I said, buy it. I'm making a crank hub, and it's almost done. And fast forward, what, 3-4 months later, it's finally done. Now these are not the prototype versions. They've already been tested. There's 4 vehicles out there already testing it. Kennedy is also one of the cars. These are the final products that we announced. Now the difference between these crank hubs and the variants is a lot of different things, which we'll explain in a little bit. But the biggest problem with these crank hub for the S55 and the M2 comp or the M3 or the M4 is that they are originally 3-piece crank hubs, which is here. Now, from factory, they are 3-piece, and what I mean by that is it's 1, 2, 3. Now, these are the sprocket gears, which spins your timing chain. The smaller one right here spins and connects to the connecting rod. Now, that goes here. Then the secondary gear, sprocket, is here. This one controls your vacuum pump and your oil pump. Now, if these were to fail, then you would have no oil pressure, you would have no timing whatsoever connecting from the crankshaft to the actual camshaft themselves. Now, these do fail, and the reason why they fail is because from factory they utilize a friction disc here. This friction disc is essentially a sandpaper. So, you want to feel this real quick?
Yeah, I want to see how it is. You can kind of see it too.
You can, yeah. It's literally like a sandpaper, right?
Yeah.
So, I'll have you do this so you show them and explain to them how it feels like. So what I want you to do is spin this sprocket now, freely. See that? Now apply pressure from here and then try to spin it.
Oh yeah, so it's friction.
Yeah.
Got it.
So it depends on a load from the factory bolt, which is here. Now how that works is once you torque this down, it clamps this together and it connects and joins the crankshaft to your timing chain, to your camshaft, as well as all the accessory pumps and stuff like that. So it literally bolts into here. Now the revolution that the engine spins, every single time it spins, every time you get on it, every time you downshift, it applies that load, right? It's kind of like constantly kicking it like this. So over time, this bolt right here actually slowly backs out like this, slowly, but not like, that drastically, but it does move a little bit over time. Once it loses enough load on this and it's out of torque spec, now you don't have that sufficient load here to compress this to lock it into timing, which then now this spins freely, just like that. And if it spins enough and your piston is still spinning as you're driving the car, the piston will hit the valve and it will bend it. 99.9% of the time it will be your intake valves. And let me show you guys.
Yeah, it's good to have all these examples here.
Well, it's because we've had the problem.
Yeah.
So this right here is your intake valve. This specific one is actually intake valve. Now, to you guys watching this video, it might not look like it's bent, but it actually is. So I'll put it here, and if you look at it straight on from here, and let me just get something on the back of it so you can actually focus. It's really hard to see that it's actually bent. But now how we know for sure to be able to show everybody is you spin it against something flat. So if I were to spin it against this table here, you'll see this end wobble around.
Yeah, that shows it. Yeah, it's hard to tell when you just look at it normally from straight on, but once you see it like that, it makes a lot more sense.
You see how it kind of just hops, hops, because it's not perfectly circular. So it always bends down here and here. So if this bends, then you got to pull off your head, your cylinder head. Then once we pull off the cylinder head, we got to resurface the head, change out the valves, and we're already there. You might as well change out the seals. And if you're already having this issue and this already fails, you're gonna do the crank hub. So it's kind of like, do you do this to prevent that? You probably should. And a lot of people think, you know, like they always think that, you know, this is an upsell. You know, shops sell people on this stuff because it's easy money. It's not easy money. Like we charge accordingly. There's other shops out there that probably charges like, you know, $5,000, $6,000 for the total job. Whereas we charge about half of that. And the reason why we do that is because we don't want to overcharge for something that, you know, obviously it doesn't take us that long. So we charge accordingly to how long it takes us to do the job. Now, is this an absolute must? No. There's a lot of people out there that has driven their cars and never had a single issue with like 160,000 miles. Yeah, just like the S65 rod bearings, you know, like it's not common all the time. You don't see it every single day. But if it does fail, you should probably prevent it from happening. You know, like we're not trying to sell you on this job and telling you like, hey, you need this job. It's here for you if you want to do it. But at the same time, it's kind of like an investment in your, you know, your money, right?
Well, it's peace of mind.
Yeah, because like people don't understand, because if it does fail, which again, you don't know when it's gonna fail or if it's gonna fail.
And there's no symptoms, right?
None. And once you have it, once it fails, you get drivetrain malfunction. That's it.
Yeah.
So sometimes we can save it by changing this out or fixing it, changing out to just retiming it, changing out the friction disc, and changing out the bolt, of course, and retorquing it, which I've seen and have actually done in the past before these crank hubs were even a thing. Like not just ours, but any solution in the market. Back then, it was just, you know, OEM. So back in 2016, actually, we had one fail, retimed it, changed out the crank hub, tightened it all up. He drove another 600 miles, failed again. And now this car was making 722 wheels. But it was heavily modified. But just to show you, you know, it does fail. I've seen it fail on, you know, aftermarket cars, anything with modifications. I've seen them bone stock. Doesn't matter what year it is. Everybody's always like, oh yeah, you know, like I haven't seen it in the early models. I haven't seen it in 2018 plus. I've seen them all fail. I've even seen them fail on the CS. It's all relative to the engine.
Yeah, so you see these cars come in, and when there's a crank hub failure, it's like, it's definitely a preventative thing to do, but at the same time, you don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know if it's going to happen. But once you do it, like once I did my rod bearings, I knew I could push my car all the way.
Yeah, and you could drive it all the way to Florida.
Yep, exactly.
And not worry about it.
I wasn't scared to do it, but beforehand, I was always scared to push it really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
But once you have that in your head, you're like, okay, I know I'm not going to have to replace a $20,000 thing. So, or
even trying to source a new motor or rebuilding the motor. In this case, you know, potentially being able to retime it and fix it, or potentially changing out the head. Who knows? You know, like it all comes down to you and if you want to do it. Obviously, just like all our videos, right? We always try to explain all the details and kind of guide everybody who potentially will be doing one of these jobs. I'd love for everybody to do this themselves. To be able to save yourself money. That's why we work together and we make videos, and kind of, I really just walk through every single tool necessary, explain to every single person like how to do it. It's not like I'm out here to, you know, make money by doing these. If I was, I wouldn't be explaining you guys how to do it.
Well, it takes a lot of time and effort for us to do this, but at the same time, I think you and I both enjoy educating people, and I still get messages every day about the rod bearing videos. Like people are like, oh, thank you, now I know how to do that. Can we go out to the car and start tearing it down, and then once we get into it, I want to have you explain the design of this.
Yes.
Because this is a different design, right?
Yeah, so once we actually start tearing it down, pulling it all apart, then I can explain to you guys all the small components in there and, you know, what I was referring to earlier. That way you guys can all see it. Once we're done with that, I will show you the variance between all the available crank hubs on the market. I'm not saying ours is more superior, but ours is one piece, and you guys will understand why we prefer a one-piece crank hub later once we're done.
So today I'm going to be learning a lot, right?
Yep, a lot.
All right.
So you'll be learning.
I'm ready.
And they'll be learning.
Good, okay. All right, well, let's get it started.
Let's go.
We put a lot of time into these videos. I usually don't ask too often, but if you guys can, thumbs up the video. It helps me a lot. And also, if you want to, subscribe. Been making a lot of videos lately, and this one is definitely going to be a long one, but very educational on the crank hub. So I'm excited to learn. I'm pumped up to be here finally talking about the crank hub for the last 5 months. So let's go ahead and see how it goes. My ears. One day soon, promise. So we've already taken apart a lot of stuff.
A good amount, and we're not even 30% there yet.
God, okay, so what's going on right now?
So we have the intakes off, we have the charge pipes off, the coils are off. Now we have to remove the heat exchanger out of here. Then we have to remove the J pipe over here. Now that's going to allow us to access the pin, the locking pin to the crankshaft. Fan has to come out, the inlet has to come out. This inlet's already out, but we need this one out as well. Then the belt has to come off. There's two belts, both belts has to come off. Then we gotta pop off the covers. Once the covers come off, valve cover comes off. Oh wait, I forgot. The fuel injectors, we gotta remove the rail. Then the valve cover comes off. Then once that's off, we remove the cam gears. Then we remove the timing chain. Then we remove all the stuff in front of it, the Vanos solenoids. And then we access everything from the bottom as well. Then we gotta drill it. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot to do.
Yeah.
How long does this job usually take?
We could probably do it in 2 days, but we want to say 3 days just because we, one, don't want to rush the job, and then two, just in case if we have small hiccups in there, here and there, we have extra time to address it before sending it out. Now, we always ought to make sure that before we even call the customer, we drive the car. And now I'm going to tell all of you guys right now, we drive the car really hard because we have to basically replicate how you guys would drive, knowing that the crank hub is good to go. So it's kind of like multiple pulls, dropping a second gear and making sure that it does not have any codes whatsoever. Just basically making sure the timing is dialed in correctly. Now we know the crank hub won't fail. It's more so like the timing. So if it does fail, or like, you know, maybe a solenoid gets dirty or something like that, then obviously we have to address that before sending it out to you guys and then calling you guys.
Where does the crank hub sit?
So the crank hub is actually in front of here.
Okay.
All the way in the bottom. Let me grab a light. Right down here, that's the crankshaft pulley or harmonic balancer. It's actually behind this. Okay.
So you have to remove a lot to get there?
A lot.
Okay.
It's not like, you know, just remove one thing and oh, there you go, it's right there. Because, yeah, we could probably remove it without, you know, removing anything else or blocking anything. And just taking out the fan and the crankshaft pulley. And then we could pull the hub out. But the problem with that is you gotta take off the timing chain. But we could release the tension to remove it if we wanted to. But the problem is you got to retime the motor, and to retime the motor, this has to come off, and for this to come off, all of this comes off.
Oh gosh, okay. So once we get more off, we'll come back and explain more about your design.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So once we actually remove more components, then I can start explaining all these small things here and then that we got to remove. The basics of this is basically you're doing a valve cover job, just so you understand if you guys are going to be doing this at home. To remove the valve cover, that has to come off for timing. Heat exchanger, J pipe to access the locking pin hole over there. And then pretty much everything on this front end, minus all the way up until the radiator. So we don't remove the radiator, but everything else in the front here gets removed. Just so you have room to remove the crank hub plus all the timing components as well. There is two timing chain tensioners, because as I said earlier, there is the primary timing chain, which is for the camshaft and crankshaft correlation together, and then the auxiliary one, which is going to run the vacuum pump and the oil pump. So they have two separate tensioners and two separate chains.
PPF?
Yeah.
Like forever.
It's a blue tint for your headlights too.
Huh? That's BJ.
That's it?
Yeah, but it's nice though.
Oh, I think it's on the red part. We're pulling off the spark plug, and then we're gonna stick a long screwdriver inside of there, so that way we know when it's at TDC. That way I can lock the crankshaft from spinning. And then once we have that locked, we can start pulling everything else off.
So you have to have it locked first?
Yeah, because if you have to lock it so you know it's at TDC for timing purposes, and at the same time so we can crack the crank bolt loose. That thing's torqued down to like 470 foot-pounds.
Jeez.
You're gonna see how tight it is right in just a second. You can't even fit in here.
I don't even know why you guys are here, bro. Bro, I can't see anymore.
swivel. You hear that?
Why is the screwdriver moving? Like they're
Oh, we're
spinning?
supposed to. So that's how we know. So that's the piston actually going up and down right now.
Oh, there she is.
I slow it down. I stop there.
Wait, Mike, so what's happening? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so we place this in here as we're spinning the crankshaft. The piston's actually moving up and down. And what we want is for the piston to be all the way at the top, which would be TDC. If it's all the way in the bottom, that's BDC. But we want it all the way at the top, so we know that that's where we can lock the timings and then readjust timing later once we're done.
What do those two things mean, BDC?
So top dead center and bottom dead center.
Oh, okay.
More or no?
Go.
But it's right somewhere right there.
Go. Nope, go back. Oh, back a little bit. Right there. Hold it. It's like right there.
Okay, you're spinning the crankshaft, right?
Correct.
And Mike,
Yeah.
what are you reaching for?
I'm using a timing tool to try to lock it, a locking pin.
Usually you can feel like a slight resistance. Where
Yeah, so there's a hole inside the crankshaft where the pin sits in. There's a little channel that goes through the block right here. It's gonna look wrong. But like what I'm doing is I'm applying pressure. So like let's just say it's flat, right? Like right here. And then I'm applying pressure with the pin in until it hits this point right here where I feel it dip in a little. That's how I'll know where we're close to it. It's a very tight fit because it's literally meant to fit perfectly in there.
But so manufacturers make a keyhole for it to go through?
Yes.
And that's for
this
maintenance.
purpose.
For this?
Yeah.
Huh.
Hey Mike, can you show them how the thing goes in the hole again?
Yeah, go back.
You're barely moving it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's very precise.
Oh, that was it.
Felt
huh?
that?
Yeah, go back. Right there.
I'm gonna go to the right one time.
I think we passed it. Yeah, keep on, keep on. Yeah, go. Hey. Sometimes the problem with it is that it looks like he's not spinning it much, but because where he's spinning it is in the center of it. But the flywheel itself is much larger, so it has a larger radius. So you're spinning a small radius, but the outer edge is a larger radius. It's like his small little movement from an inch is actually a lot.
Yeah.
In comparison to this. 1 inch movement on that bolt to the radius would probably spin it a quarter way around.
So it's a lot more.
A lot more.
Where was your hand at that moment?
Oh, dude, it's like
it was
all
way
the
in
way-
there.
All the way down there. You see the pin?
See if I can get in there.
The pin's right there. Right here. See me moving it?
Oh yeah, I see it. Oh, it's that right
That.
there. Okay. Yeah, that's way down in there.
Yeah. So this is the cam locking tool. I call it the bridge.
And this locks everything in place.
This just locks just the camshaft. So we locked the crankshaft. Now we're going to lock the camshaft. So that way we have enough locking force so that we can actually break the bolt loose. And you'll see how tight this thing is. Timing is a little bit off already. If I have to break this thing loose, that means your timing was a little bit off.
That mean I bent anything?
No, so it's just a little bit off. There we go. See, I can't even get this all the way down. See that? So it's a little bit off. But that's the thing though, like sometimes with these cars, they can be a little bit off. Actually, I think yours is worse than yours. Yours is pretty bad.
Was it?
So perfect timing, and if it's timed correctly, obviously it will be from factory, this would just slide right down. I shouldn't have to like try to force it like this. See how I can't get it down still? Still not flat?
Yeah.
Now that's loose. Now it's get in. So I'm gonna have Spencer break the crank bolt loose.
Okay.
That way he understands how tight this thing is.
So I'm just pulling
Pull
up.
it my direction. Sorry.
Oh my god. I don't want to like, I want to try to get one movement with it. Dude, I'm pulling with all my force.
Yeah, you see what I'm talking about now, right?
Yeah, that's insane. I feel like I need to get like grippier shoes and
Try going on Kennedy's side and pull it towards you.
No, break this inside real quick.
Because then you're going to be pulling against your car right now.
No, dude.
Like every single thing that we do to your car, I try to explain it so you have a better understanding of it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with everybody else that's watching, you know, I want everybody to understand it.
Well, it's nice because when I'm here, I'm picking up everything, but at the same time, I'm trying to focus on what shots to get and what to do. Like when I go home and watch it again, I relearn it and I realize, oh, that's what he meant. And then I start to understand it more.
Exactly. And like if you don't have that understanding, you just keep watching it over and over, you know? But like I try to detail it as much as I can.
Well, you know, this video is going to be long and this is a lot to learn, but it's fun to see it.
Yeah, so at the same time, you know, people can see what goes on so they understand what it really takes to do it and like how much time it really takes. And then, you know, at the same time, like you might think it's an expensive job, but now you understand why.
You can start to justify it.
Yeah, I think we're probably gonna be the first one to fully film the full process of this job.
I've only seen time lapses and
exactly,
like quick
or like
videos.
you know, people talking about it. Like for us, we're actually going step by step and showing every little thing.
Yeah.
So it's good because I want people to understand it. That's good. So now we're going to start removing the timing components. Page 8. So there are a couple covers we got to remove, which is one right here. So we can access this bolt that holds on the timing guide. There's one here, and then there's going to be one more all the way down here. You see where my pinky is?
Yep, got that one.
So there's one more right there. This one's a T40, this one's a T45, and this is a H8.
When people take off all the stuff on top of that engine, what kind of tools do they use?
So for all the stuff up here, you have 13 millimeters, you have E12, E14, you have E10, then you have a 10 millimeter for that, then you have up there's a 16 millimeter to remove the brace completely up there, and then that's removing that, all this stuff, and then you need a 14 millimeter wrench and a 17 millimeter wrench to take off the fuel line. And then radiator fan is held on, well there's T25s, there's a couple around there that's on the top of the fan that bolts down onto this here. So it's kind of like a guard that allows it to flow the air directly. And then there's one here, 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 and here. And then there's another T25 that holds on the auxiliary pump here. One down here, one over here, and that allows you to remove the fan. Then the inlet is installed with two 10 millimeter nuts facing in. And then you have the 10 millimeter up top that goes to the head. And then that's pretty much it. That's pretty much where we are right now. So you guys basically have the list of what you need for tools.
Yeah, there's everything now that people know.
Yeah, you can buy this timing tool on Amazon for like 200, I think like 260 or something.
Oh, so you can buy some that has everything in the kit?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You can buy it on Amazon.
Huh.
Don't buy it from like, you know, BMW.
Yeah, it'd be super expensive.
Yeah. So, this is just a timing cover cap, just so that the oil doesn't splash out, but allows you to be able to service the timing component. Because you can't take off the timing cover because there's no cover. Second one. So the T40 is up top, which is here. Then T40 in here, and use that as a guide to be able to pull it out together. And then pull it out enough, go back, and it comes out from the top.
Can we see that again?
That's just basically a pin to lock the timing guide, held on with the T40 over there.
Okay.
So now I'm gonna pull off the other one, which is a T45. T45. That one's T40, which is all the way down here. You won't be able to see it because I'm working on it and there's no room. They're not that tight. They're only about 12 foot-pounds. Here, the second one, T45. So now we're gonna pull off the Vanos gear. This is a critical step. You guys gotta make sure, if you are doing this, you make sure that you actually label intake and exhaust. These two cam gears are completely different. This one's actually thicker. If you actually look right here, it's actually much thicker than this one, but they look identical otherwise. There are part numbers in the back, but you guys are probably gonna think it's the same thing, but it's not. This is actually pretty tight too. These two bolts here retains this timing guide up top. That's E8. There's two of them. You remove these two. Once you remove these, you can actually remove these completely, like this. So you're not gonna be able to remove the bolt and the gear together. I removed the bolt take out the, this is the timing gear. This is going to be it's kind of a gear, but the way it works is there's a camshaft sensor here, and when it sees an open circuit, that's how you know it's at, that certain point. That's how it measures it. So now we can pull this one out as well. Doesn't matter which one's left and right, they're exactly the same. These matter though. So we'll pull off one, wiggle like this, and pull this way, hold the chain, slide out. This is now the intake one. We mark it, make sure. Now this one's the exhaust. So we put I, then we put E. See what I mean, how it's oily? Mm-hmm. So Kennedy has a rag so he can wipe it down, then he can actually write on it. Otherwise it won't stick to it.
Yeah, and you do not want to mix those up.
You do not. So I've learned it. I did it before.
It was not a good experience?
No. This was, again, this was before crank hub was a really big thing. Like nobody really had issues with it. Everybody who had issues with it took it back to BMW.
Yeah.
There wasn't no freaking DIY or service manual on how to service the timing chain at that time.
When did you first start doing crank hubs?
The first one I did was in 2016. Yeah, 2016.
So it's been around for a while then.
Yeah. And the way I know it's 2016 was because it was on the car that's full bolt on, and his car was the 2016, which was an F80 LCI. Mm-hmm. And that was the one that we did a bunch of stuff, and obviously you can't take it back in for warranty. Yeah. So that's when we did it. So now we have this that separates from here. There's a tab here. So you can actually stick your hand here and separate it. You guys have big hands. Just get a flat head, stick it inside of here onto the black side of it, pull towards you and see how it separates. And then that allows you to remove it like that. And then now we're going to remove this from here. Just let it chill. These are the Vanos solenoids, and that's what's going to retain the timing chain for us right now while we remove these. We're going to remove the Vanos solenoids, which has, actually I gotta remove this. So inside of here, this is why I like wrapping this, because I can actually put stuff here and not have to worry about oil and stuff. So there's one here on the water pump, the one here on the oil filter housing. Remove those two. That's gonna allow us to move this out of the way as well as the line. See how this is now out of the way? Like that. We can remove this completely, but I don't really need to. I don't want to have to worry about the O-rings getting worn down, so I try to remove at least as many coolant lines as I can. So you have two 10mm bolts here, one here, and then another right up here. And then we have to unplug the Vanos solenoids. Like so. And then what I do is I grab it from here and I kind of twist it to crack the O-ring a little bit loose and agitate it. And I use another finger behind here, and as I'm pulling it, I wiggle it at the same time. And then it'll slowly come out. And then you use a flathead or anything and just kind of wedge it right here now that there's an opening, and then wiggle it, and then you can pry it off like that. See? And then when you guys remove this, make sure, because there's no O-rings on here right now, you see how it's empty? Mm-hmm. There will be two that's inside of here that you got to pull out. So hold that for me, and then I can just go from this side. But see? There's this one and then this one. Make sure you get both of them out. Otherwise, you don't want to get a loss inside of here somewhere and it's stuck, and you have to try to fish it out and stuff like that. So now we get out the second one. The top one's the intake side, and then the bottom's the exhaust panels. So there's one for each one. Bam. Now, same thing. Wiggle it out, and of course they're stuck. So, one of it came out. See? Usually this one comes out, and then we pull out the O-ring that's in here right now. Get that out, shove it back on.
What is that exactly?
Vanos solenoids. This is what controls timing. So basically your variable valve timing. So with one here, I remove these two, place it aside, because I'm going to use this now. Once I remove this out of here, like this. Actually, hold on, let's see. I'm gonna use this now to retain the timing chain, since I have nothing up top to hold it in place anymore, just so it doesn't fall down. Okay. Now we're going to remove the crank hub. Yeah, now we're going to remove the front section. So I can even remove this right now. Yeah, I'll just remove this first, so then you can see better. So you remove the timing guides before or after, it doesn't matter. So Now I pull this up right here, use another hand, stick my finger here, catch the timing chain, pull this out, move it aside, and then now I'm gonna put this inside of here to hold the timing chain in place. So you do it either or, but now you can actually see inside of here where your crank hub is.
I can see that.
Pull out the front section of the crankshaft. So I call it the primary gear. I'm gonna back out the bolt, and now I can look right here, wiggle it around, and you'll see it slowly separate itself right there. Okay, and then now I'll stick this back in to right there. Move the chain over a little bit, and then now we stick a pry bar or a screwdriver inside of here. Sometimes if it's stuck, we'll use something like this, and we'll wedge it inside like this, and then we'll separate the two from each other like that. And then there's your primary.
Oh God.
Now I'm topping off one of the timing guides. And the way that I do this is way easier. We're not gonna try to pull it out, we're not gonna try to knock it in the way that some people do. We're gonna use this at an angle with a pry bar that has an angle, so when we hit it, it goes straight in. So we're gonna knock the timing cover inside the engine, and he's gonna use a magnet to catch it on the inside. Ready?
Okay.
Got it? Yep. Alright, hold it right there. See? Magnet. And then bam. Out. We're gonna change this out. So we destroy it, change it out.
What is that piece?
This is the timing cover for one of the timing chains. So now I have access to go inside of here. See my fingers? So before, we didn't have any room anywhere to access this area. This right here, let me get it light right here. This right here is actually your secondary timing chain tensioner that I was telling you about earlier. So we're gonna lock this one now and release the tension on this chain so I can pull out the secondary gear. So I'm gonna lock this additional timing. So there's a little hole right here. And then we're gonna pull this up.
Okay, can I get a light in there? That's the bolt, right? Mike, if that's in the way, just let me know.
Hmm?
Are you cool with the light?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So your screwdriver is in there, and what are you doing?
I'm pushing up the timing guide so that I can push this in. This is the tensioner here, so I'm just compressing the tensioner upwards and then putting a drill bit inside of there that's perfect fit just to lock it in place. See, now I have slack in it. Mm-hmm. Without this pin here, this will just keep pushing and then constantly applying pressure like that.
You can actually see it perfectly.
This is where I'm gonna need the extra space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Secondary one out. So, friction disc. See that? That's what you're depending on for it to not spin.
That's that thing that feels like sandpaper, right?
Yep.
And this is my OEM Crank Hub.
Yep.
It's a 3-piece, right?
Correct. So, 1, and then 2, and then 3.
What's the bottom look like?
So this is where you bolt down the harmonic balancer or crankshaft pulley. And this is where the crank bolt goes through. Then this is the secondary gear that spins, well, technically primary. This is one that spins your timing component to match up from the crankshaft to the camshaft. So this bolts down onto the crankshaft itself. And the way that it works is, so now this is going to be one piece with the crankshaft itself, and this spins, and there's a timing chain that goes from here to the camshaft. And when this spins from the crankshaft, it spins the camshaft at the same time, which is what it's called timing, right? So they're all running in reference with each other.
Where does that sit?
This goes between the block itself and the crank hub. So it seals, not yet and it seals this from oil coming out. So you know how people say like front crank seal leaks? This would be the front crank seal right here. So this is the drill fixture that I'm installing right now, and that's going to allow us to put a drill bit here and drill into the crankshaft to remove material, so we can put the crank hub into it, and that will allow it to lock into piece together. So this, don't over tighten it, just snug it. So I'm not going that tight right now, I'm just going very slow. Get to a point about, I'm gonna do it to like right here, so once we're done drilling it, you can physically see where it's shaving material.
So I definitely consider myself like a car guy, but I'm learning new stuff every day. As you guys have seen, I went from building like Instagram cars, like show cars, now to tracking my car, and now working on my car and actually learning how it operates.
You get over my shoulder, Spencer, if you want to see inside of it.
Hey, Arlen. Hey, take a look at this design. You want this?
It's kind of low.
It's really hard to
You good?
Okay, so we had some time go by, just a little bit.
We used obviously a drill, and we drilled into the crankshaft. Now the crankshaft needs to be drilled for the keyway. So this needs to be drilled to the exact length. You can go more than this, which I would recommend. This is designed to be pressed in. It's not going to go smoothly. Like you won't be able to drill it and just place it in. You have to measure it out and make sure you drill more than you need to, so when you tighten it, it's pressed in. Now this doesn't make it permanent, you can still remove it. So you can actually just wedge, because like, it's not like a spline lock where once you force it in, it stays in. This, you'll see once I start tightening the bolt, it actually doesn't take that much force to get it locked into place.
Okay, and then this crank hub that you guys came up with, this is different from the 4-pin and the other ones, correct?
All of them. Okay. Every single person has a different design. This is made and designed specifically with my ideas and experience on all the crank hubs I've installed. Now, I don't want to talk bad on other companies' crank hubs, but 4-pins, it's good, it's great. But the problem with 4-pin is you have to drill precise. Let me just say, actually, with precision. No pun intended. But the reason for that is because once you start drilling into the crankshaft, it actually has to be perfectly straight, and the drill bit that you use is the exact same size as a dowel pin. And the problem with the dowel pins is once you drill, and let's just say you drill at an angle, so this is your traditional, obviously we've done it too. If you don't drill perfectly straight and you go at a weird angle, then that drill that you're drilling into, it's actually not going to allow that dowel pin to go straight into it. And what happens with that is, if it's at an angle, when you try to tighten it, it's going to try to push itself, right? So it's kind of like, again, okay, no pun intended. So imagine this is the perfect hole that you need to place it into, right? I'm gonna get the size down first. So actually, let me do this. This would be better. So this has to go in here perfectly, right? In this case, there's obviously a little bit of extra room inside of here, but it has to go in here perfectly. And let's just say if you were to try to put this dowel pin at an angle like this, how's that gonna go in? It does not. See, I'll put it like this so you can see it at that angle. So obviously this is over exaggerated. So let's just say it's like slightly off like this. You'll get it into a point like that. It's not that crooked, right? Where you can see it. So yeah. So it goes like this, and you're trying to force it in. As you're tightening it, there's a little bit of gap still. You're gonna try to force it in, and when you do, it gets to a certain point, and that dowel pin actually breaks. And obviously, you have the other crank hub that you can grab me. So this is the 2-pin tool, right? And then this is actually perfectly matched to that pin. So this actually has to be drilled perfectly straight. This we've used already too. So this has to be perfectly straight. Same thing with this one, perfectly straight. You start drilling this at a weird angle like this, that won't be straight. I mean, look at that. See how it's crooked? Mm-hmm. So I have another crank hub here that had somebody else install it. This wasn't us. We changed it out, that's why we have it. So if you actually look at this dowel pin, this was a dowel pin. You see what I mean? It wasn't drilled perfectly straight, so this dowel pin broke off. And then this one, if you actually look at a weird angle, at an angle like this, you see how it's actually slanted to the side? It's not perfectly straight, because again, that drill bit is perfectly matched to this dowel pin. So that's the reason why we don't like using 4-pins. It's not that it's bad by any means, but it just requires a perfect drill. Like if you start drilling at a weird angle, it starts destroying it. And again, these guides are made out of, some of them are made out of aluminum, some are made out of steel. But regardless, the drill bit that they supply you, the shank is so much further that when it actually goes inside of it, it's slowly cutting that. Whereas ours, we use a forged steel that's a drill press, a drill guide that goes inside of there. So it's actually much deeper as well. Like you try to break that thing, man, good luck. You won't break it. Nor will you drill it. I mean, you saw us cutting it for what, 2 hours now, just drilling. And again, like perfect jobs takes time to do. Like everything else, disassembling wise, it's quick. Now it's the drilling part that takes long.
No matter what, with a crank hub, you have to drill, correct?
Yeah, but you saw how I was drilling, right?
Yeah.
I was taking my time, not applying too much pressure, cutting it slow, and making sure that when you're drilling it, it's perfectly straight. Because obviously you saw how this went in.
Yeah.
Perfect, it's smooth. And if you don't drill it perfect, then it's gonna be offset. This is designed, so you see how it has additional rooms here? See, this isn't perfectly straight. So this is allowed like a additional tolerance so that if you don't drill perfectly straight or offset, whatever, this allows it to kind of mushroom and conform into shape no matter what. So that's why it's better for you to drill more than you need to. This is much more easy for you to install, and it's hard for you to mess up. And you won't know if somebody installed a 4-pin crank hub and snapped one of your dowel pins unless you remove it. And once you remove it, then you might see what we saw with that other crank hub. That other crank hub, actually, it failed on a M4 CS.
Really?
Yeah, it was a CS. So he was driving the car, and then afterwards, he actually had a timing code. Remember the timing code? So we pulled the codes, had timing code, timing correlation, crankshaft to camshaft. Usually when we see that code,
It's crank hub?
it's crank hub, it's timing, timing's off. So then we're like, hey, your timing's off. He's like, oh dude, I had it done at another shop. And I said, well, dude, here's what I'll do. I'll drive the car, I'll monitor your timing to make sure that the reference is the same. And every single time I drove the car, it was always off. And then I was like, hey, we gotta redo your crank hub. So we opted out to go with the Vargas crank hub, which again, it's not a bad crank hub, it's an amazing design. But the problem with it is that if you ever have to service anything inside your engine, it's actually a pressed end crank hub. So for you to remove that crank hub, this whole front end has to come out and you have to use a sledgehammer, bolt it down into here and knock it out slowly. And it's gonna be a lot of force. Because even when we torqued down the crank hub to the OEM spec, again, you saw how tight that was, right? That still wasn't enough to compress that crank hub all the way in flat. So we get it in, and then we have to keep tightening it by hand until we feel it bottom out. So imagine the force that you used to break it loose earlier and you still couldn't. Apply that force to tighten it just to lock it into place.
Damn, that's a lot.
Now imagine trying to remove that.
Yeah, that would not be easy at all.
No, so that's the reason why I don't like those crank hubs. Again, it's not bad, but if it's time for you to service a timing chain or guide, anything like that, good luck.
Yeah, it's a big process.
Yeah, like you could change out the guides,
Yeah.
but you can't remove that timing chain.
So now with the design that you came up with, you've spent the last like what, 6 months coming up with it?
More. So
really?
So before you bought your car or even thought about buying your car, I was already in the process of designing it.
Yeah.
And then when you told me like, hey, I'm thinking about getting an F80, I said, hey, you should get it.
Well,
I told you.
That's what made me want to get it, because you were like, oh, we're going to do a crank hub, so
Yeah.
I was interested. Now, with the design that you came up with, can you explain what this is? Can you explain why this is so different from the other ones?
Yeah, so the difference is, this is a one-piece crank hub. There's no keyways, no extra moving parts, no potential failures whatsoever. Not to say that a two-piece crank hub will. The two-piece crank hub has 4 keyways, which is pretty strong. But the idea of this is that there's no additional movement whatsoever from the keyway or anything like that. And then the difference too is with dowel pins. Technically, a 2-piece 4-pin crank hub is technically 3 parts, because it's the hub, the additional gear here, and then the dowel pins. The dowel pins are not a part of the hub. So this, on the other hand, is completely one piece with this actual keyway. Now this keyway is actually made to have material from here, so it's a 2-axis, right, rather than just a dowel pin, which is just 1. So the integrity of this is much stronger for shear strength. So this is why we want this design. So I hope you guys like this. Some people say it might be a little bit harder to install. It's actually not that hard. So I mean, you saw us remove it.
Yeah.
Now you guys get to see us install it.
This is the part that I like, because we've seen so much effort go into doing this.
Well, just the drilling.
Yeah, just the drilling alone.
Yeah.
But once you do this, your peace of mind is completely at ease.
At ease.
Yeah.
And especially since you're tracking your car, now you know you can drive it as hard as you want. You don't have to think that this is gonna fail, like ever.
Yeah, so now I can push a lot harder and not feel so bad.
Yeah,
or at least not
so I
worried.
feel like sometimes when you're tracking the car, like it might kick in your mind like, oh dude, imagine the crank hub spins, you know, like oh, what if I bent a valve?
Oh, it does for sure.
So it kind of pulls you back from like you really pushing as hard as you should be able to or want to.
Yeah.
Because it's always in the back of your head like, oh hey, like what if it spins? Now you can actually push it even harder.
Oh,
now I
yeah.
have to worry and get, you know, better time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, now with the installation part, we're more than halfway through, right?
Yeah, we're past the half point because the drilling point is technically the half point. Now it's the reinstallation of all of it,
Okay.
which you saw us disassemble, and now you'll see us reassemble, including this. So now we put the timing chain in here, and then we're going to use the Vanos solenoid again to hold it in place to not fall, like that. Then we got to install the crank seal. Lightly lubricate your crank seal so that it slides in smoothly, and then install, which you're probably not gonna be able to film.
Yeah, I can't see anything.
Yeah, there's no room.
What are you doing exactly?
Now I'm pressing in the crank seal again. I have a tool that is actually the perfect shape, as it should be, and then we're going to tap it in until it's flat. So once I have this reinstalled right now, you'll be able to see it on this end of it.
Okay.
So now you can record that, show everybody. Now, this goes in. So for this part here, first we gotta install this, slide it in. This chain needs to go over the actual crankshaft, the crank hub first, like so. And we get to this point here, and then we're going to use the additional port here that we have to pull that timing chain into the sprocket, like that. And then the secondary one is a tricky one. This is the one that I have to go from here. Actually, I need to pull that out a little bit more, so like that, and there you go. So now redo this part. So yeah, it's a little bit more work than two-piece, but it's not too bad. Then now I go past that. Actually, we could even leave it right here in the middle. That way the chain's not binding. And then now we grab this chain, and now we gotta put this chain over. So this is the spot where everyone's like, oh, this is so much harder to do. Like so. See that? And then this can go over here. And this one has to now match up from the keyway. It's mated. Now I'm just tightening up the bolt to make sure that the hub is completely flat, which it is. So now you can see it on this end of it.
It's official.
Yeah, that took no force whatsoever. So remember how I was explaining to you guys earlier that this is going to be a tight design? So I just locked it into place to put to the position, started tightening it up just very little. When I say little, like maybe 10 foot-pounds. And as soon as I started tightening it a little bit, whoop, perfect, just dropped right in. This is the torque wrench that we use.
It's a monster.
Yeah. Everything else on the top end of it, so that we can lock everything. So we have to lock the timing chain to the crankshaft because we don't want to depend on just that bolt. That bolt cannot handle that. Up top, all the timing chains are gonna go back together, or timing chain's already on actually. Now we gotta put the timing guide on, and then the cam gears on, torque them all down, and then torque down the big bolt and reinstall all the seals. So now we gotta make sure that see, when you install this, you wanna make sure that this timing chain is on that sprocket gear. You see that? You can't spin the chain like this. If you do, and you're able to, it's not on correctly. So now we're gonna place it onto the sprocket, and you can't spin it. And then now we get this installed onto here. Spread these two pieces apart. Now if your car is a high mileage car and this is your first time doing this, You should probably change out all of these guides. In this case, you know, Spencer's car is pretty much brand new, so we're not gonna change it. So now we're gonna use something to go inside of here and push it up further than we need to, so that I can grab it on the other end of it, like that. And then pull this up, and then it's gonna go through here. And at the same time, we're going to constantly apply a lot of pressure against this chain, pulling it up, so we have no slack whatsoever on the very bottom. Then we check inside of here one more time, and we're good right here. And then now, Kennedy, can you grab this real quick? Now I gotta release the secondary tensioner. Remember how I used the pin to lock that one? Now we're gonna pop that one off, because that's gonna block this from going down. So now I'm going to go from here to here, push that guide up, and pull out the pin. Bam, like that. Now, this goes all the way down, like that. And then we can reinstall this additional guide. And that goes over here, like this, down here like that. And the same thing, we're gonna reinstall it inside of here, but we're gonna basically place it inside of here like that. See how it's not perfectly flat? Something to pry this apart and spread it. And once we do, we're going to be able to get this inside of here and locked into place like that. Bam. And again, make sure it's lubricated. These are already lubricated. These can go back on to here. And then this one goes on to here. And we'll tighten those down after.
Is it 6 o'clock already? Oh my god.
It's 6?
Yeah.
I didn't even look outside. I realized it was dark out. Pizza party.
I wanted to go buy new lens. Now, this goes onto here. Now that we have those in place,
But the
remember how we marked them? I, E, I is intake. You can mark it however, 1, 2, whatever you prefer. We like I because we know that's intake and that's the exhaust side. I get it. So remember, this separates. Put it right on this rag. And this goes on. This doesn't matter what position you install it. And don't worry about the Sharpie that we used. The oil is going to remove that. And then slot that in. Then we remove this. Get the cover on, like so. And then we get the bolt on. Now that we assembled all these stuff back in, this is all loose still, which is what we want. We put the tensioner on, which is over here. And then that's going to apply tension to the chain itself. So now we're going to install the timing tool to lock this into place from here to here, like so. And then we're going to flatten that, install these retention bolts, then tighten these. These don't have to be that tight. Make sure that this wire does not get caught under it. And then that's it. Don't worry about these. I'm tightening these after. Okay, so now we're gonna torque it. Just gonna preset it for all this stuff. I'm gonna grab some water real quick. We're gonna have so many gigs of video today, and then tomorrow.
I'm about a lot to edit.
So now these are 16mm bolts, and then we're going to do 20 Newton meters. Try to be as precise as you can. You don't want to over torque these bolts. Make sure that when you install these bolts, they're well lubricated as well. Okay, 20 Newton meters, and now we go degrees. And this requires a good amount of force. And I use the big boy torque wrench for one purpose.
This is what
Yeah. For one purpose. So this thing's already preset for what I need it to be at. So I gotta place it on to 0 out. And that's degrees. 120 Newton meters at 207 degrees. Kennedy! This is where you need 2 people. You do the 120 Newton meters first. No problem. Okay. Now degrees. Ready?
Oh, good lady.
You guys both have to pull
That's
it?
2 people.
I need to brace myself, bro.
Almost there.
Yeah, upgrade your knife handling skills, man.
Right there.
You need to get that sharp knife.
It's not sharp.
A lot of work. Jeez.
I pooped myself.
That thing's on there now, huh?
Oh yeah. I mean, 2 of us doing it, and that's pretty tight. Now that that's done, you can start removing all the timing tool. This is my eye level when I was telling Spencer I couldn't drive the car. I had to pull it back around because I literally couldn't see. I was sitting up as high up as I can like this, and even now, I'm barely able to see over the steering wheel. And I'm like,
oh my God.
okay, how am I gonna do a pull like this?
You told me, you were like, I went to go drive your car and I couldn't. I'm like, oh no, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, I can't see over the dashboard. Dude, sit down low. Like, yeah.
I'm sitting normal. I'm sitting normal.
I can't even see him. Dude, that's so funny. I'm sorry.
Like, watch, go further back and then just get like a straight level of me sitting in here.
Oh my God,
And
that looks hysterical, bro. You know, they didn't make adjustability to go up too,
Yeah.
like an automatic one.
Yeah.
So it's actually the day after, and I'm back here at Precision right now, and they finished everything up for me, which I'm super thankful for. I just went for a quick drive in it, and it feels amazing. If you guys want to, you can check out their YouTube channel. We did a cool little talk in the car talking about the horsepower ratings for these. Also, more information on the crank hub itself. So if you want to, check out their YouTube channel because they're pumping out content finally, which I'm super excited for. But I want to show you guys right now the complete result, and also have Mike talk a little bit more about how you guys can do this for your car and why you should. And also now with me having this peace of mind, I can start modifying the car.
Now you're modeling. Only mechanics.
Fans, subscribe.
So the car's completed. When we left last night, or when I left last night, what did you do since that moment?
Left it off because we were waiting on parts. Parts came, so we changed. We reinstalled the valve cover, the fuel injector, well, the fuel lines. We reinstalled the ignition coils, replugged in all the harnesses, reinstalled everything on the front end, including the 2 inlets for the turbos, the intakes, the radiator fan, the belts, the crankshaft pulley. Yeah, we did a lot.
It's a list of everything.
Yeah.
And also, if people want to see more, you did a lot on your channel as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
you have a vlog finally,
Yes.
after all this time.
Yes.
Now, going forward with having the crank hub completed, the first thing I have to ask, the peace of mind that I have now, I'm able to modify the car, right?
Yes.
So I could do E85 tunes, things like that.
Yeah, so now you can modify the car to do whatever you want. You could go up to, let's just say 1,000 horsepower if you wanted to, and not have to worry about the crank hub failing. Not to say that, you know, something else won't fail at 1,000 horsepower, but at least you know that that crank hub will not fail whatsoever. So you have a peace of mind, especially since you're tracking the car too. You get to drive it as hard as you want and not have to worry about it or even think about it or hesitate whatsoever. So I mean, we just went for a test drive. You know, you drove it pretty hard.
I mean, I feel much more confident now, and especially going forward, like this is bone stock. I've done nothing to it. Now I can be like, okay, maybe we'll tune it. Not maybe, we will.
Yeah,
we will do an exhaust and downpipes and things like that. And then the last thing too, with this kind of job, this takes about 2 days to 3 days.
2 to 3.
And you can do this for pretty much anybody, and also you can sell the crank hub to worldwide, right?
Worldwide, yeah.
Where can they find it if they want to buy
On
it?
the website.
Okay.
Yeah, so you guys can find it on the website, on our website, and obviously use Spencer's discount code.
I'll put it on the screen.
Correct.
From a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you recommend this for somebody to do with the S55?
Probably what I would say, I mean that's tough because I was gonna compare it to like, you know, S65 bearings, but like the S65 bearings, they do last longer, but they do fail, right, over time. It's a wear and tear item. Whereas this is, you know, something that can fail today, tomorrow, next day, where you can't even measure it to see, like rod bearings, for example, you can do oil analysis. Whereas this, you can't do any of that. What are you gonna do? Pull it all apart and check it?
Yeah. So I would say it's a 10 out of 10. You should do it.
10 out of 10, at
Okay.
least.
Sweet.
Maybe 15 out of 10.
Yeah, I would say if not more. Well, once again, thank you so much, dude.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it.
I can't even tell you how much peace of mind I have now. I'm so happy to finally have that done. If you guys want to, you can check out Precision Dynamics on Instagram, YouTube, everything below. Also, I have a discount code if you guys want to use it for your crank hub. If you're looking to do this, whether you want to buy it and ship it to yourself or have them do it here. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you can, thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.